Hi! Happy Sunday, everybody. I hope you're having the most fantastic Sunday ever. It is absolutely beautiful here in South Louisiana. Today, I have a wicked special guest on. He is from Montana. He's a real estate agent out there. I'm sure I'm going to say his last name wrong, but it's Will Friedner. I almost said Friedner, but I knew that was wrong. So it's Friedner. He actually corrected me on that. And he is in Montana. So he's going to be talking about the Midwest, the housing market. Not only that, this is some really cool stuff because not many people can say this. Okay. Look, I'm going to show you something. He wrote a freaking book about Montana. Like, how many people do that? Like, I haven't written a book. Like, I can't say that I wrote a book, but Will can. Will can say he wrote a book. He also has a YouTube channel, and one of his like big things why everybody knows who he is in the real estate business is like the first video that he ever put on YouTube ends up being a viral hit, and everybody was like, "How does that happen?" Which I find hysterical. He hit the real estate mark with the title and thumbnail, and that was what got him a bunch of views. But a bunch of real estate agents were all miffed by it because they've been on YouTube forever and never had a viral hit. So, without further ado, let's have my friend Will come here. And whenever you have any questions for Will and I, make sure that at the beginning of your question, you put the word question and then the question. So that way we know. It's hard to the chat can go by really fast. So it can be hard for us to know who's actually asking a question and who's just talking amongst each other. So here, without further ado, let's have Will. Hi,
Hello.
Will.
Hello there.
What's the weather like in Montana right now?
Today it's cloudy and about 40 degrees, so much colder than where you are, I'm sure.
We're nice today. It's like 60. Oh, oh, look, somebody even gave us a super chat. Look, it says Javier gave us props on his live stream yesterday. Do you know Javier Vendetta?
I do.
You know?
I know who he is. I have never met him in person, but I am aware of Javier.
He's a good dude. He and I are best buds. If like anybody doesn't know about Montana, it's like a really quiet state, but it's absolutely gorgeous. And Will was kind enough to share some of his pictures of Montana with us. So if we had the book, where is this? What is this place?
That is a hike we did last summer. That's down in Big Sky, Montana, which is south of Bozeman and just north of Yellowstone Park.
Can you buy a house near there?
Yes, you can if you have a whole bunch of money.
Oh, that's really expensive.
Yeah, Big Sky, Bozeman area. That's the most expensive part of the state right now. It's just crazy. I mean, you're in the millions down there for anything.
What about this one? Is this the same?
That is up in my neighborhood. That's up just north of us here near the Canadian border. It's a town, and I put town in quotes, called Polbridge. We actually got married up in this area, but it's very remote. It's about 20 miles south of the Canadian border, right where that picture's taken. It's right. Basically, that's looking into Glacier National Park.
Can you do manufactured homes where you live? Is that even possible?
Yeah, it's, it depends on the covenants and the zoning, but yeah.
They're possible. It is possible to do those. Do you guys allow for tiny homes, or do they have to be over 600 square feet?
The tiny home thing hasn't really taken off here, and I don't know why. I think it's a zoning issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there is not a tiny home development that I know of yet. I'm sure we will start getting them. I know down in Missoula, which is about 100 miles south of me, there are a few, but yeah, it's for whatever reason, it just hasn't gone here.
I have to ask a question of a subscriber of mine. His name's Boiled Nuts, and he lives in Hawaii. And I don't know if you saw, but there was a bunch of flooding in Hawaii about a week ago. And I want to ask Boiled Nuts, is everything okay there? I want to make sure you didn't flood. I just checking in with you. Just let me know if you're okay over there. I was thinking about him. I meant to email him and I didn't. Question: is the crash going to happen? What's your opinion, my friend Will?
In my area, I don't believe so. My opinion is that I think the country is going to slow down. I don't necessarily see a crash happening. I hope I'm right.
Mhm.
In our area, what we're seeing is people escaping the big city. And so that's why I think we may, if the whole country slows down, obviously we will too. But I don't think we're going to see like we saw in 2008 and 9, because so many people want to move here now. And what the COVID thing has done over the past year has taught people. A lot of people a year ago didn't realize they could work remotely, and now they do realize they can work remotely. So they're all thinking, why would I live in downtown LA when I can live up in the mountains and do the same job? So that's where we are here. And that's the majority of people we're getting right now, is just people escaping the cities.
Yeah. Well, speaking of people in California, I got to show you this. I don't know. I shared this with you earlier, but some people may have not seen this. This is crazy. Let me pull up the little tab because, all right, we're going to do a little share. I don't know if you can see the thing right here. So
Yeah.
in California, this couple bought a house. They buy a house, and after they signed all the paperwork, it was a hell of a deal. So they couldn't even stop themselves, because normally this sound like 800,000, but the guy was selling it for 565. It was already paid for, but he needed the cash quickly, so he's looking for a quick sale. They find a real estate agent. This real estate agent tells a couple, why don't you go ahead and purchase this because it's a deal. They're like, oh my God, yeah, totally. They went ahead and bought it cash themselves. They cashed in 401ks. They cashed in everything they had to buy this house. They get to the closing table. Everything's off. There was one little hiccup because there was a tax lien. Everything was straightened out. Fast forward to after the closing, the sellers won't leave the house. They absolutely refuse to leave the house. And because of California law and tenant law, they can't even leave. They can't force them out because of the eviction moratorium. Oops, sorry. My daughter calling. Because of the eviction moratorium, they can't leave the house.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm not a lawyer, and I don't even play one on TV. But my question would be: are they truly tenants? There was never a rental agreement. They sold the house.
Exactly, but there's some weird loophole because the sheriff's department can't kick them out because there is some kind of clause saying that you can't throw anybody out of their home, but they have the paperwork that says they own this home. So then they're like, well, then they're tenants of the home and you own it. And they're like, well, there's no lease agreement. Well, if there's no lease agreement and there's someone in your house, they're considered a tenant. So that's why they can't kick them out.
You got to love California.
Yeah, you got to do. Hey, you know what? Let me ask you, is the Californians raising the price in your area?
Yes, they are. That's the biggest complaint I get on our channel. Our channel is called Living in Montana, if anyone wants to check it out. But yeah, a lot of people are like, why are you getting all these Californians are coming up here? And in fact, that video I had that went viral, that was part of the reason I think it did, is because that picture we showed earlier, Big Sky is, like I said, it's south of Bozeman. Bozeman is now known here in Montana as Bosangeles. So
this one right here, right?
Yeah, that's in Big Sky south of Bozeman. So
you know, when I always see something beautiful, do you know what I always say? As soon as I walk out, if I walk into a beautiful house or I see something beautiful, the first thing I say is, God, what a dump. Because it's so beautiful. Yeah. It's my attempt at being funny. Question: why is the price of homes rising when the interest rates are going up? It's getting crazy out there. I have an opinion. What's your opinion, Will?
I think, again, different from 2008, what we're seeing here is people are buying in cash. They're not worried about the interest rates. They're buying up houses with cash, and that's why I don't think the crash, if you want to call it a crash, is going to be the same if there is one, because it's not, I think last time it was based on, banking and lending tricks. And this time it'll be just the economy slowing down. But all these people in our area anyway, have been buying everything with cash. So it's not like the bank's going to be foreclosing on it because they've already paid for it.
But there's still just a bunch of people on forbearance. And if they don't have a job after forbearance ends, which is June 30th of this year, and they haven't filed for it, they most likely be foreclosed on, And if they
Yeah,
it's
there's that. But I've read conflicting articles on where that level of, the forbearance, how many people are actually involved in that.
I just feel like I don't know if you read blogs back in the day, and I always feel like whenever some poop is about to hit the fan, they always kind of like, no, 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 no. Don't pay attention to this. We're looking good because of this. No, 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 no. Don't pay attention to this. That's not really true. This is fake numbers. Just keep buying. Just keep buying. It's going to be fine. There isn't enough people with those kooky loans. You're going to be fine. Just keep buying. And then all of a sudden they can't lie anymore. And then all of a sudden the poop hits the fan.
Yeah.
And I have that same kind of like, I keep reading these articles and they're like, don't listen to the hype. And I'm like, if they keep telling me not to listen to the hype, maybe I should take a closer look and listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to be optimistic. Like
I'm
I
a
said,
realist.
I think, no, and I am too, but I think, again, I'm just looking at our little area here. I don't think we're going to see, if there is a crash, I don't think it's going to be as bad for us. I hope not. And maybe I'm totally off. But I guess we'll find out.
I think there's going to be pockets throughout the United States are going to be affected a lot more than other areas. Like when 2007, 8, 9, 10, Florida got a big giant hit from that because they were way overinflated. So yeah, of course, there's always going to be areas that were. Louisiana didn't get it as bad. We had a few, but not anything. But my opinion about the reason why that people are still buying houses like crazy, even though the interest rates have gone up, is they haven't gone up that much. I mean, to have it at 2% and to go to 3%, woo-wee, it's not that big of a deal, really, honestly. I mean, it may increase your payment just a scotch, but it's not going to be enough for people to stop buying. Now, if you're looking into the 5s and 6s, you're going to see a slowdown. You're going to see a definite slowdown, but it's still wicked, wicked low. And I remember back in the day when I bought my first house, I got 7.5%, and people were like, wow, you got a really good interest rate. That was good for that time. Oh, look, somebody's from Billings. I don't know where that is.
That is on the east side of the state. That's our biggest city in Montana. It's about 200, and you're going to laugh. It's about 230,000, and that's our biggest city.
Woo, that sounds so exciting. Sounds like a really great. This is not my life. My aunt lives there, and I have cousins that live there, and I would literally spoon my eyeballs with dull spoons before I'd ever want to move there. I know it's beautiful. I'd want to visit. There's no doubt about it. That is not my kind of life. I need people around me constantly. Question: why does no one talk about the USDA direct loan? Trying to research, but hard to find info. A lot of YouTubers just talk about the USDA guaranteed. I've heard interest rates is 25% now. I have never even heard of a USDA direct loan. Do you know what that is, Will?
I have not either. We have we call it the RD loan. I don't know if that's what she's talking about here.
That's what she's saying. The USDA guaranteed loan is just the regular rural development loan, but I've never heard of a direct loan.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but RD loans have become a little bit harder to get. So they've been doing a lot of FHA instead of RD because of the time constraints with getting approval through RD. I've seen that with more and more lenders recently, even though, in our area it's rural too. And we do a lot of RD loans. So when the lenders here are saying, let's do FHA because it's going to take too long, or it's just not as good of a deal, then I listen to them because they want to do right before their clients too. Have you been noticing that in your area, Will?
The
slowdown of the RD loans?
Well, what I've noticed with RD, my experience with RD loans is the first time home buyers and all of that. And the problem in our area is those people have been priced out. So, and they're going up against investors or people from out of state that are buying everything with cash. So it's just killing their chances. And, but yeah, that they're a great loan for first time home buyers. It's just a matter of finding a house that, I mean, as you know, the houses have to be in pretty good shape. They can't be fixer uppers, and, they have to be a good place in order for them to even work with an RD loan. And so that's just more and more things that are against people around here for using one of those.
Yeah, we've had an increase in price here. There's no doubt about it, but there's still houses available right now, though. I think in our whole entire parish, there's only 200 houses for sale, which is like when there's normally like 2,000 at this time.
Yeah, we're in the same boat. I was looking at our inventory stats, and it's like 17 days of inventory. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think we have 20. I think it's 20 days of inventory. I think that's what it is. Yeah. When buying a home with some land, should we hire our own surveyor and assessor? Easy answer.
I would.
Yes. I would. Absolutely. And Warren, I'm going to tell you something else. I don't know if you saw my video about purchasing land, sometimes the sellers will have an old survey or an old, like some old information maps and everything. And the map that they have gotten isn't correct. Like they've done improvements or done things to that parcel of land that isn't on the survey itself, whether they dug a well or there was an ancient Indian burial ground there. Who knows? That it may have not been on that original assessment that you had gotten from the seller. So it's always good to have it in your name. And if I represented the seller, the buyer, I would tell them, get your absolute own assessment of that land, because not that sellers lie or anything, but people.
Well, I have a couple of horror stories if you're interested in that.
Have at it. Give us one.
Well, an agent that I know, it wasn't me, was showing land to some people, and it was a 40-acre parcel kind of out in the woods, and they were walking around with the owner, and he was pointing at the corners, and it turns out they weren't the corners. And she kept saying, you need to get a survey, and they're like, no, we trust the guy. And so she was smart enough to put it in writing that I told these people to get a survey, and they are electing not to. So sure enough, the next year they start putting in the foundation. They've got the foundation in, and the guy next door shows up, says, hey, do you realize you're on my property? So the lawyers were pretty happy about that one.
That makes me so sad, because I never want that to happen to somebody. And I've heard it, especially around here, because people are so trusting. And I'm like, people don't know that sometimes they're lying, but sometimes they lie.
Yeah. Well, and this guy may not have even known. He may have been going for years thinking it was his land, but there again, until you get an actual survey, you have no idea.
Direct comes straight from USDA. They're the lender. We have that too. I mean, there's no difference in lending. I mean, they get it done just as quickly as the regular guy who's doing from another company.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any benefit to it, because I've seen it both ways, and they get done in the same amount of time, and it's pretty much the same exact loan.
I agree. Yep.
I've never had it where it was like, oh, they got a better deal because they went through the USDA lender. All right. Rough says, question. So can you sue them for ongoing damages and let them stay? They have to cash to pay damages. Okay. So this is California, so it's a little tricky. I don't know how it is in your area, but if the tenants damage the property, you get to retain their deposit, but there is no deposit in this case. These sellers really, honestly, they have all the cards in their hand. They could destroy the place and walk away. They have the risk of being sued. But are you going to really be able to get that money from them? They're probably going to skip town. We're never going to see from them again. I mean, they can't even damage their credit report because they were paid and they don't have a lease on them. So they can't even do anything but file property damage cases, and that'll probably be one of those things that drag through the courts for years, and sometimes it's just not even worth it. What do you
Yeah,
think?
well, exactly. That's one that the lawyers love because they'll get paid, but they'll make their money. But yeah, it's unfortunate that that's a gigantic loophole, and unfortunately, people are taking advantage of it.
In that article, they had said there was a total of 7 cases in that specific area had known about that they were doing that. So it might be a whole little gang of people that are like, hey, well, let's just do this and live there for free.
Yeah.
Renee says, hi from New Hampshire. If people are in forbearance, their real estate taxes are part of their mortgage payment. Won't these people have liens put on their property because their taxes aren't being paid? Renee, in some cases, the mortgage companies are actually covering the escrow costs. But once that has been determined afterwards and they come off of forbearance, they have an adjustment to their mortgage payment that allows for it to go up because their escrows have gone up in price. So if they are on the cusp of like, I only can afford $1,500 and their taxes have gone up and their mortgage escrows have gone up because of insurance, they could have a problem because they're not going to be able to pay for it. And then they're going to have to put their house up for sale. What do you have to say, Will?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that there's really no, if you're in that situation, it's a bad situation. And, the whole lien thing, I mean, technically there's already a lien on the property from the mortgage. So,
right. But you can get an additional tax lien if like some people don't have their mortgages attached to, like my mortgage, I just pay my escrows and my taxes separately. It's a separate bill.
Yeah.
So they can technically put their mortgage on forbearance, but they're still going to have to pay property taxes.
Yep.
And
You always have to pay those.
yeah, and in Austin, Texas, they increased their property taxes by substantial amount because of some kind of light rail or something they're putting in, and people are not happy campers. Somebody said they didn't even know what they were voting for. Always get a survey. Debbie says, always get a survey. My dad had 100 in a reason why when he sold lots, it was always surveyed. Yeah, you always survey every lot. And even when you buy in Florida, they require you to have a survey no matter what piece of property you buy, even if it's brand new. But here in Louisiana, it's not a thing. There was a builder here that, built those like kind of track houses, one right after another. And nobody got a survey when they bought their house. And the title companies, did the whole thing. Well, a couple of years after these houses were built, somebody went to go sell it. And the buyer actually decided they were going to get a survey. And sure enough, the house, like a good portion of the house and the driveway was on the other people's lot. So they had to like do this whole thing to fix it. But
well, I'm sure you don't deal with a whole lot of Canadian buyers, but because we're so close and back when the border was open, they were kind of our biggest market of people buying down in our area. And a lot of them, when they buy something, they'll get a survey done, whereas the Americans don't. And I don't know if it doesn't sound like it's required in Louisiana, but in Canada, every time you buy and sell a lot or a piece of property, you have to do a survey.
We did in Florida. I mean, I think it depends on the state. We had to in Florida.
Yeah, we don't. And like my earlier story, things happen. And even in the town south of us here, Kalispell, the original in the core of the town, the old houses, those lots are, everybody knows that they're not, if you get a survey, your fence is over or your garage is over or whatever. So I think people are happier just, okay, I don't want to know. And everyone just leaves it alone. And
love is blindness, is that they say? Or
exactly.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
Okay. Property bounds as far go back to when they did surveys, if they did that, no one's property lines would be what they think. I found concrete markers with brass stamps on them, and they dig them. People like, this is a real thing in Louisiana. I don't know if it is in your area, but people will say there's stakes in the ground, and they'll take metal detectors and they'll find the pins in the ground where the corners of the lot are, which is kind of nice. The surveys are always like that. That when they find them, they're like, yes. All right. Some real estate people are saying there's going to be a crash. Others are saying there won't be a crash. The real answer is nobody knows. Ain't that the truth?
That is correct.
It's educated guesses. There's educated guesses. The one thing that concerns me more than anything is, because my specific channel talks about affordable housing options, is that the average American can't afford the average American house. Their incomes do not match this. And economists that are investors say, well, that's fine, because we'll just build houses, not single family dwellings, but high rises and condos and everything else. And they can rent from us. Those people don't necessarily need to buy a house. They should just go ahead and just think of themselves as long-term renters. To me, that just boils my blood, because from when I was a kid growing up, from the time I was itty bitty, the American dream is to purchase a house. And the way to gain wealth, build wealth here in the United States, is to own real estate. And if your mindset is to train people to say, you're never going to own a piece of America, you're going to be renters for the rest of your life, what is that doing for the little guy trying to build himself up? That just, to me, is horse poop. Horse poop.
I agree.
What is the average cost of the home in your area?
Do you really want to know?
Yeah, I really want to know.
I live in a resort town, and I pulled up all our stats, and our prices have gone up just in the past year, almost 20%. Right now, the average price in our town is over $500,000. So it's crazy.
Say that again. How many dollars?
500.
Wow.
Yeah. See, everybody's, it's all the whole supply and demand thing. Everybody wants to live up here, and there's nothing for sale. So
I moved here in 2007, and when I moved here, the average price of a home was $175,000 in this little town, which is, normal. Then it was, 185, blah, blah, blah. We had a little dip and then went back down. Now it's over 270.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that's a lot of money, especially for young people, because the incomes have not matched the price of a starter home, a beginning home.
Well, and that's the big dilemma here now is, and nobody, according to everything I've read and everybody that's talking about it, no mountain town has solved this problem. But, where do the employees that work at the restaurants and all of the service industries around here, where are they going to live?
Do you know what's going to happen? Go ahead.
What's that?
No, go ahead and finish your statement, because I have.
They're trying to figure it out. They did this thing last year here in our town or a couple years ago, it's been going on, where they, are requiring builders to, if you're going to build a new development, I don't know, 10 or 15% has to be affordable housing. Well, that's great, except what they did is they said, all right, if you're going to build really high-end, nice condos, well, the affordable ones have to be the same. Well, so now you're telling a guy to spend, I'm just picking numbers out, spend $400,000 building a condo, but sell it for $200,000. Well, who's going to do that? So it's just, to figure out, that's the question of all time. And then to tell somebody, hey, use your land to build cheap housing on it, and don't make a huge profit like you can right now on your land. You use it for cheap housing. It's just, I don't know what the answer is. I don't think anybody does.
Okay, so I have a couple solutions to this problem, actually.
You should run for mayor up here.
Well, because I've thought about this. Okay, so I don't know how it is in your area, but we have a lot of like old malls that are completely vacant. We have lots of places throughout Baton Rouge, as far as commercial buildings that are completely vacant. They would be easily turned into affordable housing options for people. The mall could actually be turned into cheap condos. There's plenty of parking. There's already plumbing. It can totally be done. They're actually doing it. They've done it in New England. They can't, it's been done in Arizona. They're actually turning a mall in Arizona into condos, affordable housing options, mixed use. Why don't they just go ahead and take some of those buildings and then turn them into residential housing? The other thing is, years ago during World War II, after World War II, they wanted GIs to purchase housing. So what they did was they offered cheap land for builders to build on. They gave them building supplies that were at a government cost, which would be cheaper for them to build. They built these tiny little houses, one right after another, row after row after row, and they allowed people to build wealth this way. This is how a lot of Americans did after World War II. A lot of your baby boomers lived in these little houses and built wealth over time. It could be done again, but nobody wants to listen to me. But there's my solution.
Well, and I agree with that, and I'm not making excuses, but in our little town, we don't have any old malls. We don't, it's a totally different
Yes.
deal than Baton Rouge or any big city,
Right.
where we don't, we were a population of about 6,000 locals until the last year. And so we don't have that. Everything that we have is full. Every piece of land has been sold. There's just, I'm not sure how they're going to do it. One of the restaurants that my wife and I go to all the time down here, it seems like every time we go in there, there's a new chef, a new head chef, and a new menu and all that. Well, and I started asking, like, is the owner a bad guy? Why is this happening? And it didn't even dawn on me. It's like, people get sick of driving 30 miles to come to work in Whitefish because they can't afford to live in Whitefish. And so they go get a job somewhere else because they don't want to drive all the way up here, and they're not making millions of dollars as a chef. So why would they?
Could some of these businesses or locals in the area have like tiny homes on their property that people could rent from? Because that's like one of the solutions that they've came up with in Los Angeles and around California, is because it's too expensive to live there. So they've allowed people in their driveway to have ADUs, I think they were called them, but they're just basically small dwelling units, small tiny houses that they could live on, and they rent to, teachers, firefighters, police officers. So that way they could live in the area and don't have to drive that far. My dog is driving me absolutely crazy. I'm so sorry. He will not shut up.
I was worried mine was going to freak out during this as well, but so far so good.
Yeah, it's my dog and I have no one else in the house. But I don't know if you know this. I'm going to totally go off topic, but I have a whole house full of dogs. Let's see if we can get this one on camera. Yeah, there he is. There she is. Look, I have 3 dogs in the house, and usually with one barking, they all start barking, but no, just this one, just the other one, the little tiny one is barking today. Oh, well. What are you going to do?
Yeah. So the tiny house thing, they are starting to go that direction here. But the other thing that has been an issue here is what people have been abusing, and they've changed all the rules, is with the VRBOs and the Airbnb, because we are a resort, they've really shut that down. And then to put a tiny house in, or to allow someone to do that, there again, they could make a fortune renting it out. Why would they rent it for cheap to the chef down at the restaurant?
Well, they give a tax credit in California to people that if they rent it to people that would be living in the area, like teachers, nurses, they give them a tax credit. So that's the reason why. You give them an incentive. And what's the incentive for everybody?
Yeah.
That's always works. Money trumps everything, as they say. Remember my parents buying their first home for $6,000 in Hopkins. Is that Montana or Minnesota?
That's Minnesota. That's my home state.
I don't know my letters of states. Back in the 50s, my grandmother was horrified at the cost. Today, that home is worth $200,000. Bought my first house for $135,000. Sold it for $250,000.
Yeah, I bought mine. My first home was a manufactured home.
Oh, good for you.
And I bought it, what year would that have been? It must have been 96, 95. Here in Montana, which now is, I should have held on to it like they always say, but I bought it for $80,000 on 5 acres. And right now, yeah, that place would be, at least 400,000.
I will say that I have advised many of my clients who have gotten to that point where they are like, well, we're ready to buy our next house. The first question I ask them, I always say, do you need the equity from this specific house in order to buy your next house? If the answer, they say no, I'm like, please rent it. Please rent it. Because in our area, manufactured homes rent like that. And then usually, typically, the renter is paying cash. So I'm always like, please keep that house and just buy your next house. And that way you can build wealth. And it's a tax write-off, like everybody. But this comment, and I get what you're saying. Tiny homes are an insult to people. It's a result of being priced out of the market. And I get what you're saying. And I do kind of agree. But I would much rather for myself, if I was in that situation as a school teacher or a nurse or, a firefighter, whatever it may be, that I be able to live in the area that I'm working. So I can make that good income, stay in an area close to where I work. So I don't have to drive, 45 minutes to an hour to get to work. So I can make that great income. Some people just work in the area during the week. So they only stay in that house for like that rental area for the 5 days. And then they go home for the weekend to spend time with their family. That's what some people do. It's just something to think about. I mean, I know it sucks. It's a temporary answer to a really crappy problem. I'm not denying that at all. What do you say?
There's no easy answers, I guess, in our area. I mean, I like your mall thing, and that is a good idea. You could build that out and house a lot of people. But yeah,
it's just rezoning. That's all that is. Rezone it mixed use. Some the one in Arizona, what they're doing is they're putting shops at the bottom, like an air conditioning strip mall. So shops at the bottom, apartments at the top. I've seen it where they've taken it in New England. They have taken it and turned them into retirement community. Again, our apartments at the top, shops at the bottom. And, it's really great for the retirees because they can walk around there without having to worry about the weather. So you get the little mall walkers, they're just trucking along and they don't have to worry about the New England weather. I mean, they're having a great time. So let's see. I had a question here. Oh, here we go. The bunny foo-foo. Remember little bunny foo-foo? What is the difference between a manufactured homes and regular houses? I can answer this, but you can too, my friend, I'm sure. Do you know the answer to this?
Yeah. I mean, a manufactured home is built off site, and hence the term manufactured. And it, most of them, I don't know about in your area, but most of them here are put on a foundation. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing there too. I don't what is your area like with that?
Depends because we have our flood zone. So some people will choose to put them on piers because they're like, well, I put them on a foundation, so they'll put them on piers so the water can flow underneath them.
Gotcha. Yep. And a regular house obviously is stick built and built on site and not mobile. You can't move it. I mean, I guess you can, but it's a little different.
Well, that's why they changed the name from mobile home to manufactured home in 1976 to be exact, because of the fact that they're not mobile at all. You can have them moved. It costs over like $10,000, but the biggest difference is the building codes that they're built to. So manufactured homes are built to the HUD manufacturing specifications. Traditional built homes are built to whatever the local offices require, their local building codes. That's what they build them to. Modular specifications, which is a different type of prefab type of home, also built in a factory. They're actually built to traditional building codes, and sometimes they're even built better than those traditional building codes. Often they exceed those building specifications. So I hope that answers your question. I love talking about manufactured mobile and mobile homes. You can't get financing on them either. So if it's like a lot of mortgage companies will not finance anything before 1983 in some places. So if you have a manufactured home that's older than that, you're not going to get financing unless it's like a personal loan,
Yeah. We have credit unions here that'll finance them, but a regular bank, they don't.
Even if it's older than 1980?
Sometimes it just depends on, it's a higher down payment and all of that. But yeah, when I have people that are looking for that, back when people could afford houses around here, that was what we would send them to, as the credit union.
Yeah. Well, we do them here. The credit unions will do them here. And occasionally Wells Fargo will do them. They're kind of iffy. Sometimes they'll do them for like a good 9 to 10 months. And then they're like, we're stopped doing those. And then they'll go back to doing them again. Question. I live in North Carolina. How do I find the laws that allow tiny homes here in North Carolina? First, you're going to have to find a plot of land. And when you find that plot of land, you're going to go to your local zoning laws, go right there and ask them if they'll allow a structure for less than 600 square feet. You also can check with a title office and see what the restrictions and covenants that have been filed with the local courthouse. And then you can see if they allow that. And then you can just ask any city officials in that permitting office if you are allowed to build anything under 600 square feet. It's really they're warming up to the idea the more that they talk about them on like these local shows, even they just came out with this article about some 3D printed houses. So the more people warm up to the idea, you're going to see a lot of these rules change, but I'm sure they're going to have specific codes for tiny homes. Like you can't have them 100 square feet and one bedroom. They have to have a bathroom in them, that kind of thing. No words, huh?
Yeah, well, no, you nailed it. You did such a good job. I have nothing to add.
Nothing to add.
I would have said something very similar. So yeah, and again, in our area, I think, and maybe in North Carolina too, but what we're running into here is it takes a while to make new laws and new rules, and the tiny homes are kind of a new thing. And there hasn't been a lot of it here. So if I were her, I would definitely get something in writing and make sure you can do exactly what you're thinking before you just go plop one out in the middle of your lot and have them come by, the real estate cops, and tell you got to move it.
Any malls are going because of Amazon. So I wanted to tell you this because this was another thing that popped in my head and it left my brain because my brain Swiss cheese. But in some areas, there hasn't been a lot of houses that have been on the foreclosure market because of the moratoriums. And, some of the banks are holding them back. But the ones that have come on the market in some of these big cities that tech companies have taken over, they're the ones that are actually bidding on the houses. So the tech companies have another company that buys the foreclosed properties so they can put their employees in these homes. So basically they're employing these people, paying them a wage, and then those same people are renting from their employer. I was like, if that doesn't make you sick, I don't know what will.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of those companies, they have those, I don't know if you call them shadow corporations or or what, but I know Walmart, when they go to towns to look to buy land, they're buying it under a LLC or something that is not Walmart, because
Right.
Joe landowner would say, "Oh, Walmart, yeah, my price just tripled."
Right. It's the same thing. Rentals are ridiculous overpriced. It's almost forcing you to buy. Can't bring myself to buy with a home just because of the low interest rates for a home. That is way overpriced. Sometimes, though, let me just say, sometimes if you balance out how much the interest rate is and how much the house is inflated, you end up paying more on one side or the other, because that's what always happens with these markets. If the interest rates go down, the prices go up. Then as the interest rates go up, the prices go down, and you're still paying the same amount on your note in some cases. Just really try to weigh that out before you decide. You're like, nope, well, the prices came down because the interest rates went up, and now you ended up actually paying more because the interest rates went up. Just weigh it out. That's all I'm saying. Question: Are modular homes built to the higher code or regular housing code? They have to meet the local codes for traditional home building. But in many cases, with a lot of modular home companies, they exceed those building codes. Hope that answers your question. Here we go. Do you know the answer to this one? Also, can I get a home loan for a modular home?
Yeah, I mean, again, there's rules, and there's regulations and the different types of loans. But yes, I've had people get them.
Yep. It's a new construction loan. There's no difference here in the state of Louisiana. I'm getting a home loan. You can get an FHA, VA. I don't know about an RD. I think it has to be already existing in order to get RD. I've never seen that one, but conventional loans, it's just a new construction loan. And as certain phases of the construction are done, they pay, like an appraiser comes out to evaluate you do evaluation of it. And at the time of closing, one more appraisal is done to make sure it's worth what has been spent on the house. And then that's it. It's done.
So you can VA will do that down there.
I'm just saying if it was already a modular home existing, not a brand new one, but if it's in a modular home existing, yes, there's nothing they'll do it. They do it on manufactured homes here. You can get a VA loan on a manufactured home. It has to meet certain specifications, though.
Yeah. We have one VA appraiser in our area, and it's very strict. I mean, just crazy. Like, I had one deal where he called out one of the light switches in the kitchen was missing the little screw on the plate.
We don't have that guy.
Yeah.
We don't have that guy.
You don't want that guy.
That guy does not exist here. No, indeed. No, indeed. No. And that's the whole thing. Some appraisers are, reasonable. And I've had some tough appraisers, which is fine. Like there had to be a drip edge that was fixed, that kind of thing. That's fine. But then you get the some appraisers that are trying to justify their job.
Yeah. The same guy called out. This was, we live in the mountains. So this particular house was on the side of a mountain, as well as all of the other houses in the neighborhood. And he called out that we had negative drainage in the front yard. And I'm like, well, we're on the side of a mountain. How are we going to fix that? And so he actually made us, and I helped the sellers. I had the listing. I helped the guy. We had to dig in a drain line around the front of the house because of that.
Okay. Whatever.
Yeah.
So Warren P says, can we find out the closing costs before we close? There's always an estimate, because every day that you close, there's going to be a different amount in closing costs. It could be just between a couple $100, but it has to do with the escrows and taxes and when those things are closed. So your closing costs are always an estimate until the day of, but they're pretty darn close. They're pretty good about getting that.
Yeah, they are. Ours are real close too. Yeah.
Well, Rick Snowman says, people want to blame Walmart and Amazon for the malls dying, but the truth is it's easier to understand. Look at the average small store in the local mall. Think about how much it costs to run it. More than you think. The next one was more than you think. Yes. And the thing is that the mall used to be an institution. It was like when I was a kid back in the day, a very, very long time ago, that was like the thing, like everybody was like, what are you doing this weekend? We're going to go to the mall. There was arcades in the mall. People went to the food court. Then you went to the movies. We walked around. I mean, it was a thing, everybody went to the mall every single weekend. That it was a place to hang out. Then like people didn't do that anymore. It was like, oh, I don't want to go to the mall. Like who wants to go to the mall? And it just became not a thing anymore. It just isn't. And because the internet made it so much easier.
That's exactly it. It's so easy now. In fact, I have my wife and we have a daughter, and I swear that, every day it's like Christmas Day out on our porch. There's boxes from Amazon and UPS delivering stuff that they got online. So no need for malls in our family.
This was the other one. I'm sorry. I wanted to put this up here really quick. Do you think the price of lumber and building materials will go down for new constructions? So this is one of those things that it depends on what blog article you hear from. Because for the beginning of the year, they're like, oh, the price of lumber should even out pretty soon as more home builders are deciding to build, and the supply chain has gotten better since COVID. Then literally 2 weeks later, they're like, absolutely not. Lumber prices are terrible. They're going to be awful. They're up 78% from last year at this time. We're in for a nightmare. So the answer is just like everybody says, I don't know. What's your opinion?
Well, and I think it's just, it's economics 101. To me, it's just supply and demand. If everybody wants lumber right now to build new houses, of course the prices are going to go up. So that's my thought.
The price of lumber was exceedingly high because of the fact that we had so many houses that were damaged from hurricanes, from like weird stuff that happened in the middle of the country. Then in California with all the wildfires, they said like they pretty much had a handle on that. This was at the beginning of the year. They had a handle on that, and that building supplies should be able to be shipped to all these builders. Everybody's back on track. So I was like, yay. I even made a video in my video. I even said that. And then literally like 4 days later, they're like, nope, just kidding. Just kidding. No, there's nope. Lumber's terrible. And I was like, oh my God, I looked like a liar. All right, here we go. If I add my name to a trust fund, my parents have to and I want to use some money for my down payments in San Diego, California, will that money be considered seasoned? Depends on how long you hold on to that money, and you have to talk to your lender and see how long that they require that money to be in an account.
Yep. Yeah, that's a definite lender question. I am not going to attempt to answer that with any sort of, guarantee.
Some lenders will say 60 days, some say 90 days. You just have to check with your specific lender what they consider seasoned money. I've only had it happen once where somebody came to the closing table with a suitcase of money. I'm like, oh, no, we're not closing today. You can't do that. And he's like, oh, I have money somewhere else. He had it in an account. And I'm like, okay, you come in with that cashier's check and that's fine. You can do that, but we're not doing this. You can't buy houses that way. He didn't know.
No. Hey, I got a good closing table story. And it doesn't have to do with this, but it's a little different, but it's classic. So you realize that, when people close on a house, they have to sign all, a million documents about everything. And one of those things is all of your aliases. And these weren't my clients. This was the gal at the title company told me this story, but these people came in to close, and apparently the gal had not informed her husband that she had been married before. And when the document came up with all her past names on it, it was a big shock to the guy. And he got up and walked out, and the house didn't close because this was all just thrown on him at the closing table. So I always tell my people this story just in case, they may want to have a talk after we look at houses to, smooth all this out so that doesn't happen again.
I had it where I had a house under contract with the people living in the house. I had the buyers, and we're going through the whole process, and I dropped the check off at the title office to do the, background check. And they're like, "Who are these sellers?" And I'm like, "Well, it says it on the contract." They're like, "But that's not who's on the title of this house." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "The people that you have signed this contract are not the people that own this house." And I'm like, "Huh." So then I call the agent, she calls the sellers, and they're like, sure enough, they were renting the house and they put it up for sale just to see how much they could get for it. I'm like, what a waste of time. Like, what is wrong with people? I'm like, welcome to Louisiana. That was one of my very first deals when I moved to Louisiana. I'm like, this state is crazy.
Did they really think they were going to be able to pull that off is my question.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, they really thought they were going to be able to get to the closing table and pull out that check. Like, ooh, look, I scammed all these people. Like, what? Whatever. Anyways. When interest rates go up, won't this be just lower the price of the house? If I buy now, I won't lose the instant equity when the interest rates go up and forbearance ends. Here's the thing, that the interest rates have gone up, and the prices of houses are still going up.
Yeah. I think people need to look at, if you're thinking about buying a house right now, you have to look at it more of like you would as the stock market. You're not, yes, you may buy it, and if you're planning on selling, or if you're thinking you're going to make a big profit in the next 6 months, then that's where these questions are kind of headed. And if you're going to buy a house and you're planning on staying in the area for 6, 7, 10, whatever years, then I wouldn't be too concerned about the price and worried about, oh my God, I'm buying it for 300 grand and, in 6 months it may be worth 280. In 10 years, obviously there's no guarantees, but I would be stunned if you're not at least breaking even.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, well, it depends on the area too, though.
Yeah.
Because some places have increased to a point where it's just dumb. And that happened in Florida. When I bought that house for $135, I didn't even think it was worth $135. Now, granted, my husband and I did a lot of fix up work with it. Then when we sold it for $250, I'm like, I felt like I robbed somebody, because I'm like, this house is not worth $250. There's no way. Granted, I made it look cute as could be, did a lot of great stuff, even put a new roof, did all that stuff. But in my opinion, that house was never worth $250. The guy ends up selling that same house after the crash and everything else 10 years afterwards. So 2007, he buys it. 2017, he tries to sell it, and he was able to sell it for $189. $189. He bought it for $250. I felt bad, felt bad. If people are, let's see if we got some more questions coming in here. Let's see if they come in. Oh, if you know anything about Arizona, there's two of my favorite real estate agents are Javier Vendata, and another one is right here, Amy Hazlett. She's the nicest person. I'm digging these stories. Tell us more. Eddie says, smash the like button. Oh, you know what I want to, since I didn't see any questions. Dale wants to share a story. In 1985, I rented a house for $250 a month and sub-rented the spare room for $250 a month. Dale, you're a genius. That right there is the American way. Boom.
Good business. That's good business.
Love it. That's genius. Love Dale. I want to show some more of these pictures because they're absolutely amazing. Because I downloaded a bunch of them. Do you remember the movie On Golden Pond? Do you remember this movie? Do you remember that movie On Golden Pond?
I do.
Yeah, it was like 100 years ago. Every time I mention a movie, or I mentioned Johnny Carson with Javier on here, and he made fun of me. He was like, "Who's Johnny Carson?" I'm like, "Oh my God." He had no idea.
How old is Javier? Well, he's that under 30, I guess. So.
Yeah, he's just a scotch under 30, little jerk. Yeah. Little jerk. Love him. So yeah, that reminded me of that movie, even though it's Montana.
That's actually Whitefish Lake. So is that. That's about a block and a half from my house. I just walked down and snapped those pictures in the morning.
I bet it smells so good out there. I bet it smells so good. Fresh air.
Yeah.
What about this one?
That's up above Whitefish. That's up near the ski resorts last fall.
I bet I'd sneeze like crazy though. Look at that one.
Yeah.
What? So, like in the summertime, can you swim in these lakes? I mean, how cold are we talking about?
Yeah, they're cold. Like I said earlier, I grew up in Minnesota, and the lakes here are much deeper, and obviously a lot of them are fed by glaciers and snow. So even in the middle of summer, they're not exactly bath water.
How much would like a lot on this lake cost?
Well, there aren't any lots available, and now the houses, there's nothing under $1 million on Whitefish Lake. It's
Oh, so it's a
ridiculous.
real steal now, huh?
Yeah. If you want the one at the end of the lake, it's on the market now for, I think it's at 20 million, 15. Yeah, it's just crazy.
Jamie Brown says, do you think mounting a TV into studs of a condo could be considered damage to the structure? Yes. Anytime you put a nail in the wall of a rented space, it's considered damage to a structure.
Yeah.
That is true. That is true. Well, listen, everybody, I want to thank my friend Will here for coming in. Everybody, could you say thank you to Will for coming in? This is the first time he's been on our channel, and it's the first time that I got to promote a book on this channel other than in a video. So I'm going to show you everybody his book again. Look, Whitefish, Montana, moving to, and my friend has a YouTube channel as well. He has a viral hit. Not many people can say that. Not many people. Let me see if I can get this comment off of you.
The book comes out Wednesday on Amazon if you're interested.
I wanted to put the link, but he wasn't willing to share that right away.
Because there is no such thing at the moment. Otherwise, I would be happy to.
This is his channel right here. Look, living in Montana. Who is that beautiful woman with you? Isn't that you?
That is my wife.
Oh man, what did you do?
And she's well, I'm an overachiever, and I got lucky. And
Man,
she's actually one of the very few locals. She was born right here in Whitefish, so yeah, she is a local, a true local.
You must have done a lot of bribing and kissing butt, man. Wow.
You're not the first one to say that.
I bet I'm not. She's smoking.
I know. Well, and here's the problem. Maybe you can help me here. I told her, think about how many subscribers and viewers we'd have if she was the front of the channel, but she just hates being on camera and hates doing videos, and she won't do it.
Montana sells Montana. I get it. Montana sells Montana. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming onto the stream. Thank you, Will. I appreciate your time. If you guys have any questions after the stream is over, please put them in the message box. If you have any questions for Will, you can always jump over to his channel, Living in Montana, or you can also put it in the comment section, and Will come through and answer some of your questions as well. Thank you, Will, and thank you, everybody, for spending your day with us. I appreciate every single one of you. Make sure you hit the thumbs up on the way out. You got to hit the thumbs up. We like that.
Thanks for having me.